With your EWTN Newslink, I'm Brian Patrick. Celebrating Mass for the World Day of Migrants and Refugees Sunday, Pope Francis says the world is becoming more elitist. He says those who pay the price for elitism are always the little ones, the poor, the most vulnerable. President Trump's allies split over how he should respond as Democrats drive toward impeachment. On the Sunday talk shows, Republicans offered different defenses of the president against accusations he pressured Ukraine's president to investigate political rival Joe Biden and his son. Lawyers are using money from a legal defense fund to press sexual misconduct cases against the FBI, McDonald's, and other employers. Civil rights and employment discrimination lawyers will represent women who need legal assistance. For more news from a Catholic perspective, visit EWTNnews.com. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie starts now.
Jerry Usher, Debbie Georgianni, underway here on Mondays. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And you are the ones who really, we might say, own the show. It's your show. So we're going to ask you, put a topic out there for you today that certainly many of you are going to be able to relate to and weigh in on and share your lived experiences and your wisdom and your insights. And we're all going to learn a little bit and be better off at the end of the program. Is that how it works, Debbie?
That's how it works. That's how it works. Can I do just a couple quick housekeeping things just real fast? Because there's so many things we've got to talk about. On Friday, when we did the show, Jerry, both of us had mentioned that today was the prayer show. We got ahead of ourselves. We thought it was October 1st on Monday. It's actually not. It's the last day of September. That's tomorrow's show. Whom or what are you praying for? Okay, and today we have, of course, our Ryan Penny's answering phones, and Michael Birchfield is handling social media today, and our producer, Rich Jesse, is on the controls. So just wanted to let you guys know that. Tomorrow does start October 1st on the Feast of St. Therese of Lisieux. We're starting the Inspired by Faith book club on jerryanddebbie.com. The first book is Dr. Scott Hahn's The Lamb's Supper. Yes, it is a great book. So you're going to never look at the Mass again, ever. It's always going to be incredible for you guys after you read this book. Gigi is going to be facilitating the book club. Shauna is getting the online site all ready for the chat room. And just go to jerryanddebbie.com. But get your book first. Get your the Lamb's Supper first. That starts tomorrow. And then the last thing, Jerry, if I may do so real quickly. The first book of the Take Two Real Life series, we have picked out and prayed over all 12 of the submissions, and we will be notifying the folks that have stepped up and have offered to give us over their stories for the purposes of this Take Two Real Life series. The first book is Loved Ones Who Have Left the Faith. We are going to be pushing hard to get it out before Christmas. I would highly suggest that when we have the pre-sales, you guys get them for Christmas, or if not, just give people a card and say, hey, a book's coming on the way in January or something. You know what? It's going to be a great book because everybody's putting their heart and soul into it. So we'll be notifying everybody this week and letting them know which 12 stories were picked. Jerry, I'm excited. Now we got to work on book number 2.
Can we have a day off first before we do that?
Yeah, really. One day off. That's it. Okay.
Well, we do have a program for you today, too. And we want to put this question out there to you. For those of you who are newlyweds, or you've been married 5 years or 10 years or 100 years, 50 years, thinking back on when you went from single life to married life, was there something you can point to and you say, this was the hardest adjustment or adjustments for me, going from single life to married life? And, of course, we all know that the vocation to holy matrimony brings with it many joys and many blessings, but also, of course, challenges. As the saying goes, Debbie, anytime you get two people in the presence of one another, especially under the same roof, there's the potential for challenges, but that means the potential for growth as well.
That's true. You know the movie, the TV show, The Odd Couple. Do you remember The Odd Couple?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Felix and Oscar?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I sort of lean towards the Felix side.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a germaphobe and a bit of a perfectionist and everything. So And it was a little hard for me, I'm just going to admit, when I first got married, to kind of share with my husband what my expectations were on washing hands and, kind of keeping the kitchen real clean. I like the kitchen clean. Okay. I have to have kitchens and bathrooms super clean. You know that, Jerry. I'm like a stickler about it. I'm always sponging things off and stuff. But it's not, I don't think it's over the top. I don't know. I don't think it. Am I crazy clean or what?
All I'll say is, if you don't think it is, then maybe it is. But I need you to come over and spend an afternoon at my house.
Why would I be shocked?
No, well, if you like things clean, I would
you want me
love
to clean
it when you were finished. Yeah, but what about those of you who are listening right now, going from single life to married life? Was there something that you really had to maybe change in a certain area, or embrace something about your spouse, or just something that was a bit of a difficult adjustment for you, but maybe it's turned out to be a great blessing? Here's the number: 833-288-EWTN. 833-288-3986.
Okay, speaking about that, so talking about a great blessing, yes, it has kind of leveled me out a bit, kind of balanced me out a bit, because I had to let things go. You don't sweat the small stuff. You don't argue over things. You let things go. And so I did learn to kind of, gals, I know we don't like to hear this. I did kind of relax a bit. You never tell a woman relax. You never tell them to calm down, relax. It's just like the worst thing in the world. It's like a trigger. It's like a trigger statement. So anyway, so it was a blessing, and I think I've gotten better. I don't know. Maybe we should have had Marty on the show, but we want to hear from you. 833-288-3986. And by the way, folks, right now, Jerry and I are hosting, along with Sherry Brownrigg and Dave Palmer, the Station of the Cross fund drive. It's happening right now. This is day one. And there's pledge drives all across the country that are asking their listeners to support their local listening area. Please do so, and do so generously, and do so joyfully, because it's a great time to have Catholic radio thriving into the future, so we can bring our loved ones back into the faith. And then, of course, don't forget EWTN. Just had to say that, Jerry, and the shout out to the Station of the Cross folks, because they're listening right now.
Yeah, do be generous. We're living in times where we need the Catholic voice at the media table, as I like to say, more than ever. But to be on today's program, we need your voice here as well. 833-288-3986. Thinking back, maybe it hasn't been that long for you. Maybe it's been 50 years or more when you finally went from being single to being married and sharing a home with your spouse, and learning about his or her unique ways, and they learning about your unique ways, and blending that all together. And was there anything in particular? And it doesn't have to be really dramatic or anything. It could just be, I don't know, the fact that there was somebody else in the house all the time. Our producer, Rich Jesse, said the biggest adjustment for him was just the accountability. Didn't when he was single, and when I'm still single, we don't necessarily have that somebody to report into and be accountable to. But, that could also be a very beautiful thing, a very important blessing as well. So what about you? Take Two Family, 833-288-3986. You hear the music there? That means Greg is coming up. We're going to get to Greg in Plymouth, Michigan on Ave Maria Radio, and your other calls as well. 833-288-3986. Let's reminisce a little bit on what might have been a tough adjustment for you going from single life to married life here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello, Journey Home family. Next time, we'll welcome Mark and Desiree Hausum to the program. Mark and Desiree are former Orthodox Presbyterians, and will share what led them to embrace the Catholic faith. Share the journey next time on EWTN's The Journey Home.
The Journey Home with Marcus Grodi is seen and heard around the world on EWTN. Join us tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, only on EWTN Radio and Television.
Want the latest pro-life news? Want it delivered? Sign up. It's free. EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your source for everything happening now in the fight to protect the sanctity of human life. New episodes delivered every week to your inbox. So if you really want to know,
sign up today.
Go to EWTN.com/pro-life today.
I'm Jerry Usher.
And I'm Debbie Georgiani.
You're not going to want to miss the next free Jerry and Debbie live webinar with Father Donald Calloway, scheduled for Tuesday, October 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. Father Calloway will share his amazing insights into the Holy Rosary, and we'll also discuss his new global movement to encourage us all to consecrate ourselves to St. Joseph. Remember, our webinars are absolutely free, and you have to register online at jerryanddebbie.com.
This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. This is where we take a fresh look at ourselves and the world around us. And this is your show on the last day of September. I just had to state that because everybody's just like in high gear right now with fall decorations and Halloween stuff and Thanksgiving stuff, and now Christmas stuff is out, and I can't believe we are here. We made it to the fall of 2019. This is unbelievable. Just real quickly, Morning Glory, tomorrow morning, 7 Eastern time. Morning Glory, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, Gloria Purvis and the team, they do such a phenomenal job. I listen to Morning Glory. I know you're probably thinking, wait, she's in Arizona. You got to listen very, very early in the morning. I do. When I wake up in the middle of the night, I listen to Morning Glory. I love Morning Glory. So 7 Eastern time. Check it out, folks. There are open phone lines. We're talking today about what's the hardest adjustment from single life to married life. We want to hear from you. Come on. Let's not paint a picture like everything is so rosy and perfect and it looks like everything you see in the movies. Not true. You get two people that come together. They have their own baggage. They have their own upbringing, their own way of doing things. You put them into a house and you say, okay, make nice. Come on. It doesn't always happen that way. 833-288-3986. I'm on a roll today, Jerry, because I'm in pledge drive mode.
You are. That was quite the mental image, by the way. So, yeah, come on. You have to. If you've been married or are married, you know what we're talking about here. And you actually, this is the key point of the discussions that we have. There are people listening who may not yet be married or may be recently married who are going through some of the same issues, struggles, challenges, making those adjustments that you did. And you could have something very, very insightful to share with them that could help them along the way. So give us a call, 833-288-3986. And as promised, we'll start with Greg, listening on Ave Maria Radio in Plymouth, Michigan. Hi, Greg. Welcome to Take Two.
Hello, Jerry and Debbie, and thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Well, I just wanted to follow up with what Debbie was saying, how she likes to keep the kitchen clean and wipe everything down. I didn't start out that way when, I was married 22 and a half years. I've been divorced for almost 8 now, but just over time, I developed that habit of cleaning, and it got to be an obsession. And, I'd always have to keep everything clean and wipe the floors and wipe the countertops. That eventually led to my wife divorcing me because, it was too much for her. She, and I couldn't change. I couldn't stop it to what was acceptable to her. So, like I said, we didn't start out that way, but that's I don't know. There must have been a personality change over the years. So,
well, you know what, Greg, that's very unfortunate that happened, and that was the result with your marriage, because it sounds like you were married for a long time, over 20 years. I think you said 22 and a half years. But Greg, here's the thing. With things that become, when you get obsessed over certain things, the good news is there's help out there. We know that now. So if you feel like your little things that you do have gotten to that where it's kind of crossed the line and you've become very obsessed by it, and it's really having an impact on your spouse, there's help out there now. I think, Greg, you said you've been divorced, I think for 8 years. I think you said, the problem is I think all of us, when we got married, because it sounds like we're in the same age bracket, Greg, when we got married, things just kind of evolved. Pressures happened, stresses on in our work life or in our marriage, and then it could get past that line where it crosses that, and it becomes something that's very difficult for our spouse. I can relate to that, Greg, because when I had my first child, real quickly, I may add, all of a sudden something switched in me. Okay, after I had my first child, I just felt this overwhelmed pressure of, oh my goodness, I'm in charge of this little life, and if anything happens to this this little life. I'm just gonna crawl up and die. I've got to do something. And so I made my husband at the time re-sterilize bottles over and over and over again because I wanted this. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this, Greg. I wanted my first son to have like everything perfect, to the point where my husband's hands would bleed because he would stick his hands in the hot water, and then he'd go to work and he said, "Honey, I'm shaking people's hands and my hands are bleeding. It looks horrible." I said, "I don't care. My kid can't die. But then my second child came, and I could care less. I mean, things would fall on the ground and I'd still feed it to them, and he lived, and he's quite healthy, thank God. So my point is, I think sometimes these things can cross the line, and unfortunately it can have an impact. I'm sorry that happened to you, Greg. Is there any advice you can give others that maybe are just right up against that line and they know it's causing problems in their marriage? What would you suggest in addition to getting professional help, Greg?
Well, I would just, from the very beginning while you're dating, make sure it's the right person and, take the pre-Cana classes and, maybe it seems like they're doing more to try to make sure that marriages get the right formation from the very beginning. But, there were warning signs from the beginning that, that I ignored, and I was getting to be in my mid-20s, and I didn't want to go through life not married, so I kind of rushed into marriage, and that's probably what it is. There were probably, I got an annulment, and then when I went through the annulment process, I discovered that there were issues from the very beginning that probably led to the eventual breakup of my marriage. So that's the main thing, is make sure before you get married that it's going to be death to us part. So don't rush into it.
Right. Well, yeah, I echo what Debbie said, Greg. I'm sorry that happened to you. I don't know if they discuss things as the minutia of cleanliness and how much one spouse entering the marriage, desires that more than the other. But I trust that you mean the annulment has been since from that marriage that you talked about. So I don't know, Greg. Are you looking in the future toward possibly trying to find another spouse, making it work again?
Yeah, I mean, that would be nice if it happens. It's not that I need to get married right now, but it would be nice if it comes along. But my situation now is that at my age, it probably really isn't necessary for me to get married. I mean, I do like to have female companionship and stuff, but as far as getting married at my age, I don't know. It's I don't know if it's really something that I want to do. Because of, just from the experience of going through what I did. So,
right.
Right. Well, Greg, I want to go back to something you said about, the formation, the process and the training you go to as engaged couples to get married in the Catholic faith. I heard a Catholic radio host recently on Catholic radio share about how important it is to be evenly yoked. And we talk about this all the time from a scriptural perspective. Oh, it's good to be evenly yoked. But what does that really mean? I think it means a lot of things. I think it's important that there's a foundation of understanding and of a like-mindedness when you enter into marriage. It's very important from a spiritual standpoint, but also from just a practical, real-life standpoint as well. I personally think people should go to counseling before they get married, so you understand where people's come from, how they were raised, their upbringing, the baggage they bring into the marriage, all sorts of idiosyncrasies and different things that they have, phobias and stuff that bother them. It's important you know how to deal with it before it gets to a level that you just say, "I'm done, I'm out of here. There's got to be something better than this." Would you agree with that, Greg? That we need a real concentrated effort prior to going into marriage, because it is a covenant. It is an amazing opportunity for spiritual growth. What do you think, Greg?
I totally agree with that. And the thing is, though, you can't really predict what's going to happen in the future. So, we both, my ex and I, we were cradle Catholics. We went to Catholic schools. We went to Mass together. Every day we had 2 kids. We went to Mass together every day while we were kids. And then when she decided to get a divorce, like about a year after the divorce, she quit going to Mass altogether. So, you know, she was raised as a Catholic her entire life, went to Catholic grade school, Catholic college, went to Mass every day, and now she doesn't even go to Mass. I still go to Mass, and, you know, I go with my kids. I try to. You know, they're in their 20s now, so they have their own lives, but we try to go to Mass together when we can. So, you know, people change, so. But, yeah, I mean, counseling up front would be a good thing. You know, maybe it'll bring out some problems that could, manifest themselves later on in life. I don't know.
Jerry, are you going to share that? Because if you don't, I will, because that really stuck out at me, what Greg just said about his wife stopping going to church. See, you started this conversation about you being a germaphobe, and that's was one of the reasons why your wife divorced you. I don't think so. I have a different angle. Go ahead, Jerry. I'm sorry, I don't mean to enter into your personal story, Greg.
I just simply wrote over to Debbie. I said it probably wasn't all about the germaphobe issue, and really, let's face it, it never really is about one single issue. And
that's right.
And I think, the whole idea of having, really good marriage prep and sacramental prep from a pastoral point of view, but also maybe even counseling if that's necessary for 2 people coming into marriage. It's not for the purpose of finding flaws, to say, well, we shouldn't get into this marriage. I think it's more of a healthy approach, Debbie. Don't you think that, let's just really find out who each one of us is, get to know each other as best we can so that we can help each other be the best version of ourselves and help us to have the most holy, sacred marriage we can.
That's exactly right. Greg, it's so interesting that your name is Greg, because this wonderful priest, Father Greg, I was at when he was doing a marriage one time, and he, during the talk, he held up a board, a real big poster board, and he had a black dot in the center of the board, and he said to everybody who were there celebrating this beautiful marriage, he asked everybody, he said, okay, what are you focusing on right now? And of course everybody was focusing on this little black dot, and he goes, you know what, you focus on this black dot, you're going to miss all the beautiful white and everything that's around it. You focus on this one little aspect of somebody's problem, somebody's flaw, you're going to miss all the good around it. He goes, I'm asking you to avoid that little thing that sticks out at you and focus on everything else. And he held this up. And to this day, Greg, see, I don't think there's any accident that your name is Greg, because his name was Father Greg. I tell you what, to this day, my husband brings that up. He goes, Deb, what are you focusing on? That little black dot or all the good around it? And it's so true. It keeps you in balance. What do you think about that, Greg, before we let you go?
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and I think that holds true to my situation, is that we were too focused on, one thing that was wrong, and instead of all the great other things that came about from the marriage. So totally agree.
Right. Well, thanks, Greg, for a great call getting us started here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We appreciate that. Just reminds me, Debbie, of the saying, I've heard many people say it, that marriage is like one giant saint-making machine. Mm-hmm. And that's really the way it is. I mean, spouses are called to, help one another become holy and get to heaven. And that requires sacrifice on everybody's part, and dying to ourselves and recognizing those things, those areas where we need to grow and maybe be a little bit more kind-hearted and generous. So thank you again, Greg, for your call. We appreciate that. Talking today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie about adjustments that you had to make when you went from single life to a married life. Give us a call and join on the conversation at 833-288-3986. And you can also post on Facebook and YouTube, social media, those of you watching the video feed. And we've got some takes there already as well. And the email address works, take2@ewtn.com. And you can also post on the show website, which is take2show.com.
Did you share texting too?
Texting, I don't think I got to.
Okay, I'll get to it. You can text us. Sure. You can text the letters EWTN to 55000. We love the texts as well because they come in very quickly. Okay, Gigi and John, who are childhood sweethearts, okay, since they were so little, they said it really wasn't that big of an adjustment because they've been joined at the hip since they were 14 years old. So when they got married, they were so happy to finally live together.
Wow.
So isn't that cute? Isn't it? I love that.
That's beautiful.
Childhood sweethearts. I love that.
Well, and here's something else, Debbie, to throw into the conversation. Those who have listened to the show for any length of time know that I have never taken that step toward marriage, and I think there are probably a lot of reasons for that. Maybe my own family background history, coming from a broken family, divorced family. You might very well say dysfunctional family. The whole commitment thing. I know a lot of people are afraid of commitment and what that means. So I'd love to hear if there's anybody listening right now who perhaps you're on the other side of this coin that we introduced initially. Maybe you've never gotten married because you thought, it's going to require me to make this adjustment or that adjustment or what have you. I always say, Debbie, and I really do mean this, I'm the most selfish person I know. And so I don't know, only God would know this, but if I had entered into a marriage or if I ever did, I'd have to work really hard to be, to make it work, I think.
Okay, so you're too hard on yourself. You call yourself selfish. I don't see that in you. I see you as a very giving person, a very caring person. I mean, for goodness sakes, you clean up garbage on the ground in airports. I mean, you're always caring about others. That's a lot. I just would call you a very independent person. You have been very successful and very content on your own. And so I think sometimes that can be a factor on wanting to enter in and having to share all that with somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So I'm being nicer to you than you are to yourself.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I think upon further reflection, it would have been, I remember when I was, before I really got into serious discernment of the priesthood, which went on for quite a long time, I always really wanted to have, a wife and a bunch of kids and really just kind of give to a family and especially to the kids what we really didn't have growing up ourselves. So maybe you're right, Deb. I'll have to give that more thought and prayer. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, 833-288-3986.
Dr. David Anders.
Our assurance of salvation is grounded in the objective word of promise from Christ, who said to the apostles, "Whoever sins you forgive are forgiven." Period. End of paragraph.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck, and this is an EWTN bookmark brief. I just had the pleasure of speaking with Father Leo Petalinghug about his latest book, Saving the Family, The Transformative Power of Sharing Meals with People You Love, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog, published by Sophia Institute Press. Let's get an overview of this particular book, how it's different than your prior work.
This book is a how-to practice the theology of food. And a lot of people think, what is this theology of food business? Well, the concept of God becoming food is for a reason, and that is to have communion with his family. And so what I want to do is show people how to have communion with your family, and in so doing, save them.
Father Leo Petalinghug, and again, the book is Saving the Family, The Transformative Power of Sharing Meals with People You Love. Worth checking out. Available through our EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com. And this has been a bookmark brief. Thanks for stopping by.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
You remember the time I said on the air, go to confession. And when you're done, go out and have a big ice cream soda. Celebrate. And a man wrote to me, he says, I hadn't gone to confession in 30 years. Do you mind if I went and had a pizza? I said, have 20 pizzas.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. Do you have questions about the Catholic faith? Get the answers on Call to Communion, coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Okay, this is your show, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We want to hear from you. Ryan's waiting to answer your call. So if you feel that little prompting of the Spirit and you're like, I want to share about my marriage, but I don't want my husband or my wife to listen, it's okay. You can add something nice at the end. Like you can say, I love being married to so-and-so, that kind of thing. 833-288-3986. So you can always replay it back for your family and then everything will be all good. But you know what? Here's the thing. We have to help one another because you are the teachers, okay? We listen, we take from your life experiences. Like Timoteo, our friend Timoteo. Tim says, matrimony is in my future and I He doesn't fear it. He doesn't fear it. Even though they're polar opposites, that is the beauty of the challenge. Oh, Timoteo, I love that. Don't you love that, Jerry? The beauty of the challenge. Doesn't that sound good?
Yeah, and it really is, Debbie. As you were talking a minute ago, I think you made a good point. You know, if anyone is a little reluctant to call in and share right now because maybe it's talking about, a difficulty or something, quote unquote, negative in your marriage, it really isn't, or at least doesn't have to be. Because like we said early in the program, there are things that need to be overcome. I mean, just think about a friend. Pick any friend that you have. Do you have everything in common? Do you get along completely all the time? It's not always just, real smooth sailing in any relationship. But the beautiful thing is everybody has a chance, especially in marriage, Debbie. You have a chance to give. You have a chance to change yourself to be better, not only for yourself, but better for the sake of your spouse as well. So I think these things that we're talking about today, these maybe sometimes difficult adjustments or changes in our way of life, or how we act, or what we eat, or how we dress, or how we leave clothes laying around the house or something, right. These are all for our own betterment and for the betterment of the relationship.
Yeah, it teaches you so many things. There's patience, there's just being kind to one another, to being merciful, saying quick to say I'm sorry. There's so many aspects of marriage that really can really do and can help us grow in holiness. Anna Marie said, I believe it's Anna Marie said, sometimes marriages are not easy, especially when both parties don't try enough. I will say it takes two to make it happen. And you know what? That is true, Anna Marie. And a lot of people say, oh, she's like this and she's doing this. Or people go into counseling, Jerry, and they say, will you fix my husband? Fix my husband. No, it takes two. It really does. Everybody contributes to the success of the marriage, or they contribute to the destruction of it as well. And I think people need to take accountability. I know I do all the time. I'm very quick to say I'm sorry, and I take accountability very quickly. And I've learned that through Christian life skills, and which has really helped me. Okay, Jerry, back to you.
Well, as a matter, before we go back to the calls, I was going to ask you that as you were talking in your own marriage, say with Marty. When you do find that you like things this way, he likes them that way, or vice versa, or you just have some sort of a not immediate meeting of the minds, how do you take a step back and say, wait a minute, let's look at this and let's work this out and let's try to, find something that we both, can mutually live with? Or I imagine, knowing the two of you, like you said, Debbie, you probably want to, defer to Marty, and he's a beautiful, kind soul. He probably wants to defer to you. So you guys probably end up fighting over who's going to give in, who's going to surrender their position.
Very true. Boy, you nailed us perfectly. Yeah, no, I'm very quick to just say, honey, this is what makes me feel comfortable. This is what makes me very anxious. And he's very good about saying, you know what, I certainly want you to feel comfortable, and I certainly don't want you to feel anxious. So we're very good about going back and forth and trying to make each other the happiest we can be in every little situation, and that's a good thing. And we realize we're on the same quote unquote team. Okay, we're not enemies. We're not against each other. We're on the same team. So we're together in this, looking out at the world, and so that always makes it a lot much more enjoyable when you have these kind of little tension moments, Jerry.
Okay, adjustments you had to make from going from a single life to married life on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie today. 833-288-3986. We're going to go to Longmont, Colorado, and Mauricio is listening on Catholic Radio Network. Hi, Mauricio. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Doing pretty well. Thanks for your call.
Good. Well, thank you for taking my call. So what I wanted to share was I've been married 28 years. We have 6 children, and ages from 11 to 22. And one of the things that I just always tell my kids about it, because I think it's hilarious, I dated my wife for about 4 years. She was very young when we met. I was in my early 20s. She was in high school. She was about 16. We married 4 years later, and I couldn't wait to get married. I mean, I just could not wait to wake up every morning to this absolutely beautiful young lady. And probably around 4 weeks, I think, 4 to 6 weeks after we got married, I needed a break. and then I kept thinking to myself, boy, when is she going to go visit her mom, or something? And actually, we lived really close to both my parents. So, but it was just kind of this all of a sudden you realize you have this person here all the time, and it's like, well, I kind of need my space, And so anyway, obviously, 28 years of marriage, we're very much in our own space. But one of the things that happened, somebody asked me the question, well, how do you deal with it now? This idea of needing your own space, and what happens? I mean, we live a wonderful life, and my kids are fantastic, and I'm grateful for God for this wonderful marriage. But one of the things that does happen, we live in Longmont, Colorado, and my mother-in-law and my parents actually live in San Jose, California. So each summer, Dana likes to spend, that's my wife, likes to spend a lot of time visiting friends and family in California and spending time with her mom. So typically, we have a 15-passenger van, drive it all the way down there. I drop them off, and they're there for about a month. And I fly back and forth from time to time, thanks to points from mileage, and the credit card. And it's a really wonderful summer vacation for my wife and for the kids, and probably for my mother-in-law, who gets to see her daughter without having to deal with her son-in-law all the time. So anyway, so that's an adjustment, a very joyful one, quite honestly, because it's been a lot of fun to get used to that. And I just add one more thing. When we were moving from California to Colorado, I did have to spend a lot of time without the family, which was really hard on me. But it was at the same time, it really brought us even closer together to spend that time apart. And then, now we're here. We're in Longmont. We're all together and having a great time.
Okay, so I was laughing so hard, Mauricio. I almost had my microphone on. I almost burst out laughing right with the microphone on because you are hilarious. It's so true what you're saying, and no, you're hilarious. But I'm laughing right now because, in a good way, because you have 6 kids, a wife. Do you have any pets, Mauricio?
No pets. No, I said no to pets.
Okay, you said no to pets. Okay, so you definitely don't have any alone time. But I was just cracking up because I remember when my kids were in sports and we had a dog, and my husband would say, okay, I'm going to take the kids to practice. And the kids would go, come on, Mom, come with us. No, that's okay, honey. I've got to get some things done. And I would say to my husband, you take the dog too, because I just wanted like 5 minutes alone in the house. So, I mean,
I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hilarious. And that's why there's people that actually have, this is no joke, Mauricio. I know I have girlfriends who actually have a chair in their closet. Listen to this. And they use it as their prayer closet, but they actually use it as time alone. And I also have friends who, when their kids were young, the restroom became something that they could just be alone, and they would lock the door and just read or sit there and just be alone for a few minutes. And so I think it's understandable that you just want a little bit of kind of quiet time, not so much space away from somebody else, but just kind of time just to, decompress or do whatever. So I just chuckle because I can totally relate. And I think if we're all really, really honest, I think most of us are in the same position that there's a healthy balance, when you're together all the time. And then when you have that private time. What do you think, Mauricio?
Oh, I agree. As a matter of fact, I have to tell you, I tried to do a favor to my wife back. And this was many years ago. Again, we still had 6 kids at the time. And I thought, well, shoot, I have to return this favor. I mean, she's being so incredibly kind to me. And I said, hey, and this was like on a Saturday. I said, I'll take the older 3 kids somewhere, and then you take the younger one. And she's like, oh, that's fine. That's great. So I took them. And I think within like an hour or two, she called me and she said, what did you do? You took away my helpers. Oh, my gosh. So she was just absolutely running ragged with the youngest 3. And I thought I was doing her a favor. I was not, because our oldest 3 actually took care of the younger 3. So anyway, so there you go. So I still have to figure stuff out. But right now we're having a really good time, praise the Lord. And it is, I have to say, getting through those rough spots, you don't see it coming. I mean, I did not see that literally after only a few weeks, I would want to take a break from the most beautiful woman I have ever met, and I couldn't wait to be with her all the time. And yet it was, maybe I'm exaggerating when I say 4 to 6 weeks. Maybe it was 6 months, but it was at a time that I thought to myself, I should be ecstatic to, see her every single day. And I was like, oh, okay. So you want to take a little break?
Wow, sounds like you got a beautiful marriage, Mauricio.
And a great sense of humor.
A great sense of humor, and you've alluded to, God. You said praise God a couple times, and obviously it sounds like the faith is very, very central to your entire family's, relationships with one another. And I'll just bet your mother-in-law adores you. She's got her daughter is married to this great guy, and you've given her 6 grandkids, and you take them out to see grandma all the time. So. Any last thoughts here, Mauricio, before we let you go?
No, thank you so much for taking my call, and it's a wonderful mother-in-law, and wonderful parents I have, and quite honestly, the Lord has graced me in ways that is just fantastic. But all these things are crosses too. I mean, Dana has had to bear crosses with me, and I've had to bear crosses with her, and I think it's really hard for me sometimes when I listen to people and they say, I don't know if this happens to you, but when a couple that is going to get divorced, they want to, they each talk to you individually and they tell you why they're getting divorced. And I remember Dana and I recently, maybe a few years ago, I should say, there was a couple who we loved very much who was getting divorced, and they did the same thing. And we talked together afterwards, and I remember she looked at me and she said, "Boy, if I got divorced for that reason, we'd be divorced a long time ago."
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I think the one thing that I could tell people is like, look, you're getting married to somebody that you think you know, but you don't really know. But let the Holy Spirit guide you, because there's a growth that has to happen with the two of you. Sometimes we think that marriage is married the day the wedding is the finish line. It's the starting line. And there's a very, very long voyage ahead of you. The way I look at it is, if you hang on to God, and that's what we've both done to keep the marriage together, it's kind of like a ship, like a really strong ship. But, the ships are made to sail. So that means you're going to be going through heavy seas together. And, after you get through those very difficult seas, then it's time to rebuild the hull and fix the holes in that came from the storm, and you're off to another storm. And I think if we look at life that way, then you get to my point where, praise the Lord, we made it. But I don't think I would have said the same thing 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it would have been like, why am I here? Type of a thing. So I just encourage anybody who's feeling that this is not what they expected. God brought you here for a reason. That's my view. And that may be theologically wrong. I don't know what it is.
No.
But I do believe that God brought me to my wife, and, we had a marriage, we had a vow, we had a consecration, we had, the Lord was with us, the Spirit was with us. So anything that feels like it's extremely wrong, and I have to say, I guess I should say, I offered my wife a divorce like several times, just saying, this is enough. Let's just get it over with. And she said, no. And so we never got divorced.
Praise God.
I wouldn't do that now. But yeah, there were times when I was just ready to say, you know what, I take the kids. I'll pay everything. I will live in my parents' garage. But this is enough. And by God's grace, she hung in there, and so did I. And so here we are 28 years later.
That is beautiful. And going strong, Mauricio. Couple things, okay? As you were speaking, text messages were coming in. Some folks think you should do marriage prep at your church, because you guys, it sounds like you've been through so much. I love your analogy you used about the ship. But also, Mauricio, I want to say, going back to your sense of humor, we need to have a sense of humor in our relationships. We've got to lighten up, because we take things sometimes so, we take them to heart so quickly and get very defensive. I love your sense of humor, Mauricio. And then our dear friend Patricia from Houston, she's a wonderful soul. We just love her. She said Mauricio's family story and the dynamics of his family are beautiful. So Mauricio, you got a lot of kudos out there. You sound like a fabulous, fabulous husband and father, and your wife sounds like an incredible wife and mother. God bless you on your beautiful, big family. And we just hope for many, many, many more years when the grandkids come and everything, boy, you're just going to have big family celebrations. You'll probably go broke in the process, but it's all good, Mauricio. There you go.
Thanks, Mauricio. Great phone call to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We appreciate that. We're going to go right back to the phones, but Gina sent an email to, actually posted a comment on take2show.com, where you also can comment, dear friends. And she says, I agree with caller Greg. Marriage preparation is very important. My husband and I participated in our parish marriage ministry before we were engaged because we wanted to learn about the sacrament of marriage from parishioners in all stages of married life. Also, long before people even start dating, they need to assess who they are and what their values are so that they start their friendships knowing your purpose in life, to know and serve God. She says marriage is not a choice to make so that you are not alone. She says getting married so that you're not alone is not an option. She says also keeping sex out of the relationship until you marry so that you're not emotionally confused.
That's
so
right.
some great comments from Gina.
Amen to that. Strong preparation should go on. I personally believe in a preparation a year before marriage, but, a lot of people, they balk at that. They didn't want that. They used to just be like a couple months, Jerry. Our diocese, I believe, has 9 months preparation. I think it should be a full year, a solid full year of counseling, everything, a well-rounded preparation, because you have to know what you're entering into. Our friend Mary Beth, Jerry, real quickly weighed in via text, and she said, this is actually really good. First of all, I want to say, going back to sense of humor, Mary Beth and her husband have a great sense of humor, and that's good. You got to keep things fun and lighthearted. And she said that her marriage to David is a little bit more of a homebody, and Mary Beth is not. And so what works for them is she doesn't force him to go out, and he doesn't force her to stay home. They have a nice, healthy balance, and that's true. You can't force another person to be completely like you. And would you want that anyway? I mean, would you want an absolute clone of yourself? You don't want that. That doesn't make it fun and exciting, right, Jerry? Yeah. And by the way, our friends Laura and Glenn said they agree with me, Jerry. They do not consider you, Laura and Glenn said they do not consider you selfish. They consider you just very successfully independent.
Oh, I like that. Successfully independent. I'll have to get a shirt that says that. Okay, we got some people waiting on the line here. Thanks for your patience. We'll take you in the order that you called. Daniel in Memphis, Tennessee, listening on EWTN.com. Hi, Daniel. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello. I just wanted to put in my 2 cents worth, if I may.
Sure.
I feel as though, I'm in my 50s, and I feel as though being single, I thank God that the church is family-centered and all. But I feel that being single, that many times I feel overlooked because of the fact that when I was in my 30s, there was a young adult group that I would join now and then. But now that I'm in my 50s, of course, I feel like we're just kind of there. And this may be a topic for another time. I don't know. But, and the other thing, do be in prayer for somebody that I know that's about to get married. And I don't know how well prepared or ill prepared he is for that. He's in his 20s, and that's all I'll say about that. So a great deal of prayer needs to be done in that regard. And that's about it, really.
Well, Daniel, I can relate in many ways to what you're talking about. I'm 58 now, and of course, I'm still single largely because for many, many years I just kept that window open to possibly discern a priestly vocation. And it hasn't been that long since I think I pretty much, with God's help and discernment and very wise spiritual counsel, set that aside. And so now, what God has for me in the future, He only knows. But I think for me, being involved in ministry full time for all of these years, I think has really made the church's outreach or ministries, to people of our age, a little bit less of an issue for me, just because I'm in ministry all the time. So I feel supported. Debbie, I'm sure you can relate to this. When you're active in ministry and so forth, you just feel all of the support around you, and then you're giving support as well. So, but what about you, Debbie? You've been involved on parish staffs before. What about Daniel's comments here?
Well, Daniel, you're spot on. I just want to say, there are some young adult singles groups around the country in parishes that are thriving and doing well. But as folks get older, and they are committed singles, and they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, there's not that much, I should say, like budget, if you will, put aside for these kinds of ministries. What I would suggest is getting involved in adult formation, getting involved in Bible studies, kind of forming your own groups of parishioners that you know that share the same situation you're in, and then you could be with, and you can journey together, have kind of a little like support group. I think that would be wonderful. You're going to have to get creative. A lot of parishes have it, but a lot don't, and it's something we need to work on as a as part of the ministries for our parish. Jerry, can I just say something real quick? Can I transition to something? Because this is something too that can really help us. I just think the articles are very pertinent to our life, and they just can help us move along in this journey of faith. Church Pop, let me just highlight something. Church Pop is it features new online Christian content that's fun, informative, and inspirational. So you can find it on Snapchat, Instagram, and on the web at churchpop.com. The reason why I suggest that is there's many articles coming out about people making comments about marriage, the support of marriage, what we need to do to really enhance our marriages. And Church Pop is just a wonderful way. They do a great job. It comes into your inbox like at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I love it. It's the first thing I read in the morning. And I just want to just highlight that for folks to maybe check it out.
Okay. I think we have time to get Joe on the program from Childress, Texas, listening on the EWTN app. Hi, Joe. Welcome.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking my call.
Sure.
Just really quickly, I kind of wanted to weigh in on a little bit of what both you and Debbie were weighing in on. Of course, the sacrament of marriage is one of the scariest things to come into, but I was listening to you saying that you're still not married, and but you have vocations. I mean, you're in the ministry, and I think it's perfectly okay. I think God He gives us the gift of the sacrament of marriage, but He also gives us the gift of being single, and like for you, having a ministry. I think that's awesome, and you should discern it. See what God is telling you in your heart. For me, it was being a little bit selfish. I didn't get married till I was 30. I felt a little bit selfish about losing my freedom and stuff like that. The good thing, and I thank God for, is that my wife and my wife's parents and my parents were very strong, faithfully in faith, right? So that kind of helped us. We didn't get married the right way. I mean, we had a kid, a child out of wedlock, but the strong background in faith that we had made me want to do the right thing and correct my wrongs. But Debbie was saying some stuff like, obviously, getting together the right way, courting and getting to know each other is really the ideal way. Counseling, is never out of the question. The problem is that when we marry young, a lot of us are armchair religiously, right? We're armchair Catholics, and I certainly was. And there's a lot of things that tried to pull our marriage apart. I thank God for our parents for being strong. But the one thing that opened us up to, and unfortunately in some instances, but it doesn't happen for a lot of people, but for us, we lost one of our first 4 kids, 16-year-old. And it made us open our eyes to what we were really doing. And, I know the loss of my child was devastating, but it saved us. And so I think that having a really strong foundation of faith and religion is really ideal, and for us, it was a big difference.
Yeah, and thank God, Joe, that you had that strong foundation, and like you said, you wanted to correct the mistake you had made, and a lot of people make that mistake, but you brought God into it, and God can certainly do beautiful things with situations like that. Can we, real quickly, Joe, as you know, if you listen to the program, Debbie keeps a book of names of living and deceased. We would love to add the child that you lost, the first name in the book, if you want to give us that name.
Javier,
okay.
Javier, yes.
Okay,
really close. Of all my kids, he was really close to God, so he also made us wake up.
Well, he's closer now to you more than ever, Joe, and I think you know that. So, but when you have a tragedy, Jerry, It can bring people close together like it did in Joe's case, or it can tear you apart if you don't have that solid foundation,
Right.
especially of faith, Jerry.
Joe, thank you for your call, brother. We appreciate that so much and for listening to the program. As Debbie said, we mistakenly promoted that today would be the Whom or What Are You Praying For show. Tomorrow is actually the first day of the month. That's when we do that. So between now and tomorrow, be getting your very, very heartfelt prayer intentions ready. Call them in, and the whole world will join you in praying for what's important to you.
And until tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day.